Today, we're very lucky to have with us Rimali Batra, Associate Partner at DSK Legal. Rimali specializes in infrastructure and energy projects, dispute resolution, and general corporate advisory. Rimali is a graduate of Pune University and also holds a master's in law from the University of Oxford. A warm welcome to you, Rimali, to this iteration of the year that's been that focuses on green energy projects.
Thank you, Gaurav. It is a pleasure being here.
So, what have been some of the most important announcements and developments in the green energy space in India?
I think the last year has been quite fruitful, I'd say, and quite promising for the renewable energy sector, with the policy on EVs coming out, with the policy on green hydrogen being released, and with a lot of promises being made by the government to take India to net zero emissions by 2030. Definitely, it looks like the renewable energy sector is up and gearing, but with a lot of challenges, holding it up at the front in the coming years as well. So yes, but it looks promising.
So in recent years, India's carbon emissions have increased by 6%. At the same time, India is also one of the lowest carbon per capita emitters. And the government has a very ambitious goal of reducing carbon emissions by 1 billion tons by 2030. How achievable is this, and what are the steps that India will have to take?
Well, when you say achievable, I'd say it's definitely achievable. Specifically because when we speak of, India's consumption as of today, 50% of India's installed capacity is sourced from coal, and India is currently already using 40% of its power from renewable sources as of September this year. So definitely reaching to a target of net zero emission with the 50% target of renewable energy sources as being the source of fuel seems achievable. However, when you say what are the actions required, honestly, going forward, the energy demand in the country is going to sharply rise. And with that, the dependency on the easily available fuel with lesser technological challenges, which is coal, is also going to increase. So the government will have to work towards not only reducing dependency on such fuels, as it will work towards increasing consumption of green energy. So therefore, I think some of the steps that the government would probably have to specifically look at is bringing in policy certainty in the industry to be able to bring in investment in the decarbonization technologies, which would then encourage creating a very robust demand and supply chain for these new forms of renewable energy, such as green hydrogen or maybe EVs, or for that matter, different kinds of technologies being introduced in wind turbines, electricity networks being created. All of this would require greater investment to ensure a fair and smooth transition to a green energy sector in India. A policy support will also be needed in terms of making raw materials available or minerals available to be able to produce the raw material required for wind turbines or electricity networks. I also feel that addressing concerns at both macro level and micro level will also be needed. One of the most important steps would be ensuring state support on these policies, ensuring knowledge sharing of these new forms of renewable energy, technology transition of these new technologies that are coming in will also be required through policy initiatives. On the consumer end, on the consumer front, one of the major actions which is needed is a regulatory support which ensures that the energy prices which then come from consumption of green energy do not rise in the near term, because then it's going to make it not viable. So therefore, a power distribution reform would be absolutely necessary to pave the way for this transition to happen smoothly over there.
This is actually an interesting segue into my next question, which is on discom. So clearly, the price of energy in India is one of the lowest in the world. At the same time, Indian discoms aren't exactly known for being profitable. In fact, I think in the last year they registered, 59,000 crores worth of losses. So how is it that we can take PPP partnerships to perhaps plug this gap?
Well, honestly, power distribution continues to be one of the weakest links in supply chain of the power sector. Most distribution utilities are making losses as a consequence of the expensive long-term PPAs, poor infrastructure, inefficient operations, among many other situations. And what happens is that these losses in turn prevent them from making investment, which is required to improve power quality. And also the distribution utilities then become incapable of paying power generators, which endangers financial health of the generators and their lenders, which causes a very negative domino effect. And you're right, the losses have been rising, especially I think after the knee-jerk reaction that the discoms had post-COVID, the losses have definitely shot up. Now, the government has come to their rescue with bailout plans multiple times with various yojanas, but I don't think that's working. So PPP definitely does come in as a rescue model because it has worked in the past. However, for a successful PPP, to work, it's important that there are no delays in finalization of clearances that these models need. There must also not be any delay in which is one of the issues that always arises. There's delay in finalizing of the PPA guarantees, counter guarantees. There is also delay in matching the transmission networks. There is also delay in legally enforcing contracts specifically for fuel supplies, which don't come through very easily.
Right.
There is a lack of, I would say, investors' security because they feel insecure in these arrangements because of the inability of DISCOMs and the government to actually provide them with a very suitable security mechanism. So if PPP was really to work, I would say you'd need very streamlined measures for security clearances and licensing provisions. You would want to properly allocate risk-effective PPP models and avoid one-sided obligation and liabilities in contracts. So optimal, not maximum assignment of risk should be the principle that should be adopted for PPP models. They should avoid renegotiation and midway changes in PPP, which actually helps saving costs and delays and makes them more effective. Contract and litigation management, which has been less discussed, but they remain one of the most core aspects in making a PPP model successful. I'd like to say that the Electricity Bill 2020 introduced this new agency by the name of Electricity Contract Enforcement Agency. If that was to come through, it may look promising for enforcing contracts in long term and also make PPP more effective. So these are some of the things that could be done going forward.
Right. All right. Thank you, Rimali, so much for your time and for sharing your insights and thoughts, particularly in this space. I think, as you mentioned, there's a lot to look forward to next year as well. And here's hoping that green energy in India really takes off. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. I'm very hopeful that it will. And thank you so much for choosing such a vibrant and such a relevant topic for discussion. It was wonderful interacting with you. Thank you so much.